You know, there's a revolution happening right now, but it's not in the streets with protests and banners. No, this one's happening quietly, in lines of code, on servers, and all across our global networks. It's basically a secret war for the future of money, privacy, and yeah, power itself. And to really get what's going on, we've got to go back to the beginning.
This quote, it's from a 1993 document called A Cypherpunk's Manifesto. And you gotta understand, this isn't some gentle suggestion. It's a full-on declaration of intent. The idea was as simple as it was radical. Don't just ask for privacy, build it. Forget lobbying politicians. They were gonna write code for systems so secure that nobody could break them.
And that is where things get really, really interesting. Because when you have code that can guarantee privacy, well, that's a direct threat to a system that runs on control and surveillance. This isn't just some tech nerd debate. This is a fundamental, head-on conflict of ideologies.
So to get a handle on this conflict, we have to go back to where this whole rebellion got started. So who were these rebels? They called themselves cypherpunks, a mix of cypher and cyberpunk. These were cryptographers, programmers, and activists who saw the digital future barreling towards us, and they realized that without unbreakably strong privacy tools, that future could easily become a world of total surveillance.
Now, this movement didn't just pop up out of nowhere. Back in the 70s, cryptography, which used to be just for spies, went public. Then in '85, this guy David Chaum basically lays out the entire blueprint for untraceable digital cash. And by 1992, all these crazy radical ideas found a home on the cypherpunks mailing list. Suddenly, the revolution had a headquarters.
This quote from co-founder John Gilmore just hits the nail on the head. He wasn't interested in laws or policies, because those can be changed or just flat out ignored. No, he wanted guarantees. Guarantees that were baked into the unbreakable laws of math and physics. The message was crystal clear. Code, not politicians, was going to be the ultimate guardian of our freedom.
So here's where it all comes to a head. You've got this fundamental clash of ideas, right? On one side, you have the cypherpunks, who are trying to build a world where your money is your business, period. But on the other side, well, you've got the entire modern system of governments and banks, and their power literally depends on seeing and controlling all that money. It's a collision course. One of these visions has to give.
And that brings us right up to today. That theoretical war they were talking about in the 90s, well, it's become a very real, very global conflict.
And the ultimate expression of that cypherpunk dream is, of course, Bitcoin. It's exactly what they talked about. Decentralized digital cash, protected by math, with nobody in charge. And its very existence has put it in direct opposition to some of the most powerful gatekeepers of the old financial system, especially the IMF.
So how does a massive institution like the IMF actually fight an idea like Bitcoin? Well, you can't really attack the code. So instead, it seems like they target the countries that are brave enough to adopt it.
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. Just look at the countries with these big IMF loans, right? I'm talking Argentina, the Central African Republic. What happened to their pro-Bitcoin policies? Gone, abandoned. Pakistan is feeling the heat. Now look at a country like Bhutan, zero IMF loan. And what do you know? Their Bitcoin policy is still going strong. The pattern here is, well, it's pretty hard to ignore. It really looks like IMF money comes with some serious strings attached, and one of those strings seems to be killing your country's Bitcoin project.
I mean, the most famous example has to be El Salvador. They absolutely shocked the world by making Bitcoin legal tender. But then they needed a loan, and they had to make a really tough choice.
And wow, the price for that loan was steep. To get that IMF funding, El Salvador had to basically dismantle its own Bitcoin revolution. Mandatory acceptance? Gone. The government buying Bitcoin? Stopped. That big trust fund they set up? Dissolved. You couldn't even pay your taxes with it anymore. The whole dream of a Bitcoin-powered nation was pretty much put on ice, apparently at the request of their new lender.
But this whole fight between nations and institutions, it might just be a temporary phase. Some people believe the cypherpunk revolution has a much, much more radical endgame in mind.
Way back in 1997, this is decades before Bitcoin was even a thing, a book called The Sovereign Individual laid out this absolutely stunning vision for what this tech shift would ultimately do to society. It's kind of prophetic.
The book's prediction was just shocking and totally absolute. It said the rise of microchips and unbreakable encryption wouldn't just challenge governments, it would make the whole idea of the nation-state obsolete. Power was going to shift away from these huge centralized groups and right down to the individual.
The authors use this amazing metaphor to explain how this would work. For centuries, governments have treated us, the taxpayers,
Kind of like a farmer treats cows. You keep them in a field so you can milk them. But what happens when technology gives those cows wings? When your money, your job, your very identity aren't tied to a physical place anymore, you can just fly away from any country you don't like.
In this future, the most productive people basically become sovereign individuals. They operate in this borderless digital economy. Think about it. When your most valuable asset is the stuff in your head, and your capital is all cryptographic, you're not tied down anymore. You can't be easily taxed. The book actually predicted this would cause government tax revenues to totally collapse by up to 70%, forcing them to completely reinvent what it even means to be a country.
So, where does all this leave us? We've walked through the idea, the current conflict, and, well, a pretty wild potential future.
It's really a story in 3 acts, isn't it? It started with this radical idea, defending privacy with math. That idea has now kicked off a very real, very tangible conflict with the powers that be. And it all points towards this possible, and let's be honest, kind of mind-blowing future where the relationship between you and the government is completely turned on its head.
Which leaves us with a huge question. We are watching the birth of tools that offer freedom and autonomy like we've never seen before. But are we building a better world for sovereign individuals, or are we just watching the very systems that hold our societies together, for better or for worse, start to crumble? The future isn't written yet, and the code, it's still being compiled.